GOP do if a Democratic Senate candidate proposed overturning the U.S. Constitution while he was appearing on a television channel funded by the Russian government? In our fourth story tonight, Dr. Rand Paul says he opposes citizenship for some children born in the United States if their parents are illegal immigrants. But Mr. Strict Constitutionalist might want to check the Constitution, since the 14th Amendment unambiguously grants those very citizenship rights, and 2 Supreme Court rulings have rejected differing interpretations. Dr. Paul, the Republican senatorial candidate from Kentucky, expressing his views in an interview with Russia Today, an English-language TV station funded by the Russian government. But the Paul interview, conducted just after his primary victory, is just now getting noticed thanks to good old YouTube.
We're the only country I know of that allows people to come in illegally, have a baby, and then that baby becomes a citizen. And I think that should stop also.
Today, Dr. Paul's campaign chairman said that Paul stands by his statements. What is not entirely clear is whether Dr. Paul supports the Birthright Citizenship Act, a bill that seeks to eliminate birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented immigrants. That bill, while possibly serving as an immigrant-bashing vehicle for its 90 co-sponsors, would, even if it passed, have no real chance of altering the 14th Amendment. Only a constitutional amendment to change the other constitutional amendment could do that. And it is unclear if Dr. Paul supports such a constitutional amendment of an amendment or understands what it is. In the same interview, Dr. Paul added that, quote, "I'm not opposed to letting people come in and work and labor in our country, but I think what we should do is we shouldn't provide an easy route to citizenship." Dr. Paul also favors underground electrical fences, satellite surveillance, and helicopter patrols to buttress border security. Let's turn now to Wall Street Journal columnist Thomas Frank, also author of The Wrecking Crew, How Conservatives Rule. Thanks for your time again tonight, sir.
And how are you today?
All right, and as usual, in a state of confusion. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution states, all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Twice the Supreme Court had cases in which other interpretations were rejected that would have denied citizenship to U.S.-born children of illegal immigrants. So is Dr. Paul, do we think he's willfully seeing ambiguity where there isn't any, or is he implying that this is important enough to move it through a constitutional amendment? I haven't heard him say constitutional amendment, just change it.
I think a lot of conservatives would really like to get their hands on the 14th Amendment, you know. But no, of course he's not going to do that. This is just political grandstanding. That's all it is. He's just playing to the crowd, the crowd in Russia, I guess. But you know.
It's also, speaking of playing to the crowd, it's fascinating how people who portray themselves as strict constitutionalists are just always there, ready to go. No, we don't like this part. Throw it out. This isn't the, you know, this was not passed 5 years ago. It's not Roe v. Wade even. This amendment was passed in 1868. It's not just settled law. It's 142-year-old settled law.
But it's the 14th Amendment. This is a tricky one. You remember, this has been interpreted in all sorts of crazy ways over the years. The 14th Amendment is in some ways a very radical part of the Constitution, right? It's the only thing in the Constitution that enshrines equality, and it also, remember, it applies the Bill of Rights to the states. Okay, so if you didn't have that, then hell, you'd still have Jim Crow to this day. I mean, in a lot of the southern states.
Is there any political liability for Dr. Paul in Kentucky for taking this strident view on immigration? And if not, is there a risk at all from fellow libertarians who might have noticed that he supports satellites and helicopter patrols and argues that, well, if you could get a satellite shot of me reading this piece of script here, certainly you could get satellite shots of them aliens coming across them porous borders?
Well, look, libertarians, making contradictions with their own doctrine. I mean, come on, that happens every day. Libertarianism is this, impossibly abstract, purist doctrine. If you really wanted to be a pure libertarian, you just have open borders. And, but obviously this is where the statism, as they like to call it, this is where that sort of comes back in. So no, I don't think he's going to face much of a challenge from the, from the libertarian movement. And I would imagine that, oh, hell, I don't know. Grandstanding in this way is generally fairly, popular, right?
All right, but so then was the truth burp the problem? Because in the same interview with the damn Russians, Dr. Paul said The Democratic Party is for easy citizenship because the new immigrants who come in from Mexico register heavily Democratic. His quote was, "I think we need to address that." Is that the truth, Burp? I mean, has he conceded at least one of the real motivations for many Republicans on this issue?
That's obviously part of it. But then think about what you got to flip it here. What is the Republican motivation for being against? Remember what he also said. He wants people to be able to come and work in America. He just doesn't want them and their kids to be citizens. Okay, this is sort of the great conservative kind of free market dream where you have this sort of this rootless shifting workforce that has no citizenship rights and basically is voiceless and powerless and easily exploitable. This is what you saw in the Marianas Islands. This was Jack Abramoff's great dream. Tom DeLay was really into it, and here is Rand Paul signing on.
Yeah, it's called freelance slavery.
That's right. Indentured servitude, I believe.
Brings us back, in fact, to one of the reasons we have the 14th Amendment. Thomas Frank,
exactly.
Columnist of the Wall Street Journal, author of Wrecking Crew. Great, thanks. Have a good weekend.